topic we are covering is idea to validation with the LeanUX canvas, right?
Okay.
So before we get going, just want to know about your background and so that we can see how we can tailor make this and to your needs so you can understand it better. So what do you
Yeah,
do?
yeah, sure. Actually, total, I have a 12 years of experience in a web UI
Mm-hmm.
designing,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I'm right now managing a whole design team here,
Mm-hmm.
and also managing our project deliveries.
Mm-hmm.
So my main role here is 50-50, like 50% on design UI and UX and 50% on management.
Oh, okay, okay.
So I have a good knowledge of UI, but I
Okay.
want to explore more about UX because UX is a itself is a huge. So I have to understand how user experience is working, and how
Okay.
we can focus on user centric design,
Mm-hmm.
usability, and how I can do a user research. So all the things so that I can build a better product.
Okay, okay. That's nice. So past 12 years you were there in the field, and what is your background, by the way, Dinesh?
I'm a BCA, done BCA
Bachelor
from,
of Computer Application.
yes,
Okay.
and for designing
Mm-hmm.
from one local institute from Delhi. I have
Mm-hmm.
completed the UI designing, but
Mm-hmm.
for UX I didn't do anything, any certification.
Okay, okay, I get it. Fine. See, as in fact, last week we had essentials of user experience design session, so
Hmm.
where we covered end-to-end of user experience. But as you know, user experience is a vast subject, right?
Hmm.
And last week we had a one-day session on this, and also the idea is we are planning to put together a lot of research work and end-to-end of user experience related information, and also customer experience related information. On an ongoing basis, I'm going to share. Also, we're planning to bring in some couple of courses also for people to learn about it, because as you mentioned, some of the people depend on certifications, and some of the people do some short-term courses
Hmm.
to improve the user experience. But
Yeah.
ideally, if you see, user experience is something, a 5-year course nowadays. It's taught in NID and IIT. You must be familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's now we cannot go back to those courses, and there's no enough seats available also even for the future UX folks. That's not sufficient. But at the
Hmm.
same time, in India, we need user experience, right? At least in the Western countries, many people are tech savvy, and at least they have one single language, English language, to go across. And whereas in India, people to start using all these devices, right? It's not going to be easy. So it has to be more intuitive and easy to use than the Western countries. So we need more user experience folks in India so that they can start using these products, right?
Right.
Yeah. So for which I'm putting on a research and courses I'm bringing in, and also ongoing basis I'm planning to mentor as well. That's why, in fact, I shared that link also, right?
Hmm.
Experience group.
Yeah.
So that's where I plan to regularly share the researches and guide people also in this space. So as I told you, I've been in user experience and design field for around 25 plus years,
Hmm.
and user experience alone I've been in for 20 years now.
Hmm.
And that's where, in fact, I've been conducting training for past 3 years now in user experience design, and for the startups as well. So
Okay.
today the session I'm going to cover, Dinesh, is that, right? So lean UX canvas.
Hmm.
So lean UX, I mean, UX is there, and then what is lean UX, right? So lean UX, meaning more, it's more a lean way of doing a user experience.
Hmm.
And because user experience itself, people don't recognize what is the benefits of it in a great extent, right? To a great extent.
Hmm.
So at least a lean way of doing it is something more essential. So even though they're not able to do a detailed user experience, a lean way of conducting is viable, and with very less time and less resource, you'll be able to conduct. That's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And here, LeanUX Canvas is specifically focused towards startups and innovative ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, typically, even in a large organization, when they want to bring in new innovation, okay, and when they want to experiment or bring in a new product idea,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so how to validate it before you launch it. So that is the whole idea to validation with LeanUX Canvas, where there will be minimal waste. In fact, we'll be covering in depth on that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So have you heard about LeanUX?
No, just I'm first time.
That's time.
No, yeah.
Okay, okay, that's good actually. So today you will see, how this lean way of validating an idea, how it helps, and particularly why this lean UX is needed. Because you must have heard about lean startup and lean itself in various other contexts. Today we are going to cover lean UX canvas, with respect to the how idea can be validated before it's getting launched, without much of a waste, you can say.
Okay.
So in lean development world, right, the whole idea of the lean development is that the goal is to reduce the risk and waste, so that
Mm-hmm.
we won't develop something which is not required or do activities which is waste. So that is the whole idea of in the lean development world.
Okay.
And whereas you must have heard about agile, right? You
Yeah,
must
yeah.
have done some agile projects also, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the measure of progress in agile environment is working software.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in fact I'm recording this session, so just mute for a few minutes, and whenever you have a question, probably come back again. Okay, you can
Sure,
mute
sure,
yourself.
sure.
That'll be nice. Yeah. The measure of progress in agile environment is working software. So the agile environment, the output of it, what you see is that is a software output, right? That's what comes out of an agile development. And in lean startup, if you see, okay, in a lean startup, it is validated learning, what you learn while conducting a lean startup method of approach of an idea, right? But in lean UX, the progress would be measured by achieving the outcomes. So what is the outcome, what we are working towards? That's what lean UX focuses on. Okay, so what we have to do is that you have to determine KPI. Okay, what is the key performance indicator and metrics for the success of the product or project? So once you know this, what is the key, performance indicator? Okay, so you need to identify them, and then you have to create ideas, okay, and solution by developing lean UX canvas to achieve the desired outcome. That's what you would do. So the idea is that actually, so since we are saying in lean UX, the progress would be, what exactly the progress is that is would be measured by achieving the outcomes. So what outcome we want to achieve, so that you have to identify in the early stage itself. So for success of this project, so this is the KPI, this is the metrics if you're expecting, right? So you have to then, what you would do is that you will develop the lean UX canvas, and from there you would be able to identify what are the ideas you're going to work on and what are the solutions you need to work on, and you need to capture that in LeanUX canvas, so that you will be able to, by the end of that project, you can see whether the idea what you have created, and you validate it, and then you will be saying, okay, this is what is outcome expected. If this meets the outcome, then this is a success. That's what LeanUX is, right?
Yeah, clear.
Okay, great. And what all topics we'll be covering in here is that, right? So why you need to go for lean UX? Because everybody, already startups are working in their own methods. A lean startup is there, and other methods already, lean and agile and all is there. So why lean UX? You need to understand that. We'll be covering that. And what is lean UX? you'll be getting into, not only why actually, so you'll be getting into what is LeanUX and how exactly you will be executing LeanUX way of validating an idea with LeanUX canvas. That's what we are going to cover now, right? So you must have seen this a typical graphic in many places, right? So where the customer would have explained actually, so this is what I want. So if you're really going to talk to the customer and then say, what do you want? What is the problem you're facing means? He would have explained in his own words of what his problem is. And based on that, okay, that understanding, if the team starts designing, so this is what the output typically would be, but what exactly the customer wanted is something else altogether. So what exactly we are alluding here is that, okay, what we are trying to say is that what the customer, if the customers know themselves actually what the problem is and how the solution has to be, okay, they need to be a designer by themselves. Okay, so the idea is not just designing as per what customers asking for, okay, but we need to understand what they mean by that, and we have to design something for the latent need, right? So one example, one small story I would share, to understand this concept better and what we're trying to explain here, right? In fact, in Bay Area, right, even which is in Silicon Valley, right, and where this is a train metro station, and then passengers are traveling together. And there is one lady who is sitting and trying to sort out within her handbag. There are a lot of CDs, and this happens a couple of decades back. That's probably in 2000s, right? Where she's trying to sort out a lot of music CDs that she has in her, in her bag, and the music CDs are falling apart, and that has been observed by a user researcher sitting next to her, and he's watching her struggling with her bag and CDs and trying to sort it out. And as a typical UX researcher will be inquisitive and then see what exactly her challenge is. He asks her, "Oh, what is that you're trying to do? You seem to be troubled by with the CDs. So how can I help, and what exactly you're trying to solve?" She says, "I have a lot of CDs in this in my bag, and in fact, I love music. So I listen to the music in the morning while traveling, or while coming back in the evening, and even in the office, I listen to music. And I'm trying to put all the CDs into one of this box. It's not fitting in, and it is just coming out of it. And all I need now is actually just a duct tape, so that I can tie it around, and so that the CDs won't fall off." So that is what the customer explains, saying, "This is all the problem I have. I need a duct tape," right? So what we understand here is that there is a need for people to listen, music more often, and various different genres. Particularly CDs, that point in time would come in as an album actually, right? So various albums, so different albums. You one song from here, one song from there is what you pick and then you listen to. So ultimately, she has a lot of music series, and that is a need. So what exactly the solutions came up at that point in time is actually, right. So you had a CD with a higher capacity of memory capacity. So it used to hold 1.5 GB. So instead of a floppy disk or lower memory disk, so high memory disks started coming in, and there were mini disks also were coming in. So multiple more you can carry more CDs. Those are other options that came about. And then, in fact, that point in time, even in the cars, when you want to listen, right, when you're traveling in a long distance, and in the US and all, they travel a lot, and where you would have in the dashboard multiple CDs you can insert actually. So that was one thing. So directly, without removing a CD, you can switch from one CD to another CD. That is kind of a solution that came about in that point in time. And later on, in fact, even in the dicky of your car, right? So you can put your CDs there. Around 10 CDs you can put in, and from your dashboard you can switch CDs, one CD to another CD. So those are the uh, typically, how the user designed it, right? As a solution. But the thing is that one company which succeeded so much so that they had a product which was popular around the world, right? So what did they do is that they put hundreds and thousands of songs in just in one small box, which was iPod, right? So while designing, you shouldn't design for what just the customer asks for. You have to see, okay, so what do they mean by the problem, what they explain, and you have to see something for a latent need actually. So what will be the solution for a latent need? So that's where this iPod came, and it was pretty successful, right? So that's what you need to see. Even when you're asking a customer, or you find some issues, and then you think I can solve this problem with this idea, you need to validate it in the early stage, and you may have to have multiple tests. You may have to see what will be the viable option, and finally you have to arrive on an option which will be satisfying the user, as well as solving the problem, and also something innovative also, so which you need to test it in the market even before you launch it. So that is the whole idea of this story. So why lean UX, right? Okay, so why lean UX is that there was old assumptions. So everywhere there's old assumption. Each and every time when we start building a product, so you go and based develop a product based on old assumptions, but the reality is different, right? If typically somebody is to develop a product for emailing, right, or a mailing system. When technology changed, okay, the mailing system, what is there today, okay, so much so different from what it was earlier. Earlier, when when there was no technology there, how exactly they went about sending mail communications, where they will have a physical a postal uh, card would be there, okay, and then they would have letters typed individually, okay, with your name and address, and that would be get posted, and that will be sent through postal mail, and somebody would the postman would come and deliver it to you. So at that point in time, as you see here, right, so there are multiple thousands of mails has to be printed and has to be sent physically. But today, okay, just in a jiffy, okay, you'll be able to send emails in hundreds and thousands and millions, in fact, actually, right? So old assumptions, okay, if you were typically go by the old assumption and try to create an online solution, okay, you would be individually, sending a letter. So it has changed. The times has changed. So you cannot, keep working on the old assumptions while, the reality has changed. So you have to see what is that solution, what you're going to work on, which will be an ideal for applying the latest technologies. So earlier, right? So you must have heard about these floppy disks. So these are supposed to be kept in museums, but I'm just showing for people who wouldn't have seen it. So even when there's a software updates that happens, right? How often software updates happens? You see, once in a year they would be bringing in a new version of software. So you say a launch of Windows 1, Windows 2, Windows 3, and they used to send out a software, and then once you have installed that, and that's it. Actually, for 1 year you have to just bear with that. But how often do you think software gets updated now? Very often, right? And so is the bridges. So earlier, the way the bridges got built is different from today. How it is getting built actually, where people do it in piece by piece, and everything just they come and assemble a bridge right now. And in fact, one of the best examples of the new reality is how the entire ecosystem of music that was brought about by Apple, right? So the way how it is published and how automatically it's there in your, how you can download it to your mobile, and you can listen to it, and you can pick and choose the music, and how the entire ecosystem is there. So that's the new reality. That's what is happening from the old assumptions, right? So for new reality, you cannot work with the old way of how you operate it or how you develop a product or the services. And today, as I mentioned, software is continuous. Okay, have you heard about this? That every 11.6 seconds, okay, Amazon updates its code, Dinesh,
No, no.
right? So this is what happens across the world. Every 11.6 seconds, some code or something is getting updated. So why are they updating it? Because they keep improving upon it. I mean, once the website is on, actually, why should you change code? So, but that is not the case today. Each and every things keeps changing. You add a new idea, you know, change a module, and you add a new products. You get a feedback, you iterate it. The competition is doing something, so you respond to it and making sure actually, so all the time you are improving your application and then websites, up to date, and as well as how you keep on, adding more customers and identifying the pain points. So it's ongoing basis. It keeps updating, right? But that is not the case. If you see this example, many people wouldn't even would have seen this kind of a thing. Every 1 year, there used to be a new model, right? So nowadays,
Yeah.
the models keeps coming in. Even in the same year, one model gets launched. Within that, actually, you have a different dashboard, different headlights, different tail lights, right?
Right.
So it's continuous. You need to keep responding to what's changing that's happening. Whether is it customer driven or proactively you work on it, or based on the customers competition, or based on the change in technology, the new devices coming up. So you have to keep up to date. Software is not a one-time activity of launching something and then sitting back. It is continuous, right?
Okay.
So lean UX, okay. Why do you need that? You must have I want you to highlight here. We are going to cover what is lean, right? So lean UX, is the idea of lean is actually to reduce inventory, risk, and waste, right? So the original lean idea came about, in a Toyota production system, a couple of decades or 3, 4 decades back or longer. So when, as you know, right, Americans used to be top in car manufacturing, so they invented it, and from there they always rule the world in car manufacturing and then sales. So every year they used to produce millions of cars, and they're the top of the line cars, and people bought around the world. Okay, but later on, you see how Japanese cars took over the world. Okay, how did that happen? In fact, people expected after the World War and all, Japan wouldn't rise at all. So this is the one of the innovation what they brought in, Toyota production system. Okay, so the idea of lean, what exactly they try to accomplish is that reduce the inventory, risk, and waste. So when I'm applying this to the car manufacturing, so we have to apply that to our own product and services and then see how it is applicable, how we can reduce the inventory, how we can reduce the risk and the waste, right? So in this analogy, right? So when in typically at that point in time, how they used to manufacture is that, okay, this year we manufacture 100,000 cars. Next year we'll manufacture another 10,000 more. So that's how they want to scale up their operations and the sales and the growth. That's how it's happened. So they didn't think that that's a challenge, because more people, population keeps increasing, so more people buy, so we'll be able to sell whatever we make. That was the thought what they had. But the thing is that when competition started coming up, okay, and when things changed, when the new design somebody brought in, or when the city moved, or city, new developments came somewhere else, their needs was different, and somebody bought this kind of car, high-end cars more, or low-end cars more. And so it is not that, it is something you can predict saying, how many people would buy what cars. So, but since those kind of calculation didn't happen in the US industry, what exactly happened is what there are a lot of pile of cars actually, which is not unsold cars. So, which would maybe would be sold in a lesser price, or it would be, hit on the company itself as opposed as a loss. So when these things kept happening, there was not high margin, and the loss was increasing and piling up, and they were not able to manage. So what did Toyota production system, what they came up with is that, okay, just in time you produce something. Okay, so where they connected all the manufacturing to the user's needs, and based on based on the production, the manufacturing, and as well as suppliers, everything they connected. Also, getting a insight about, how many people ask for cars on a regular basis. So as and when there is a requirement, okay, so people would start manufacturing those cars. So instead of keeping a high inventory, so as and when need basis, actually they slowly, they predicted how many cars are getting sold here. So based on that, they'll be able to sending the inventories to those locations, instead of just assuming, okay, this dealership will sell 3,000 cars here. Instead of that, and then, sending out 3,000 cars, they kept a small inventory, and then they kept selling, and then they start continue the production aspect. So what happened is that they didn't have a huge inventory of 100,000 cars piled up in some places and not getting sold. So, but as there is a change in the requirement, or change in need, or change in the taste, or change in the technology, and they would have manufactured some of them, and then, of course, in the other rest of the cars they would have adopted, and then the new design would have come, or new standards would have been brought in, whatever, which they need to comply based on the industry standards and stuff. That's how they do. So what happened is that they don't have too much of inventory. Thereby, what exactly there is that they reduce the risk. Okay, and there is no waste as well, right? So it is not, like a bunch of things, even 100,000 here and the next 100,000. No, it is moved in smaller quantities, and which is manageable. Okay, so thereby, if there's something, even if there's a problem with the car, they stopped it and immediately they responded what problem was there, whether it's the brake problem, whatever, means they wouldn't have, built too many of them for them to get into risk and then waste. Am I making sense? Finish?
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Okay, so that's how that in the lean way of manufacturing came about, which now it's applied throughout the world. Now I'm sure this became a standard across, and everybody are manufacturing, not in the way like what compared to our development, what used to be waterfall, right? Not waterfall. So this is how they started manufacturing. So this is the concept of lean, right, which we are
Yeah.
bringing into LeanUX.
Mm-hmm.
And you must have heard about agile, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So now, in fact, right, so agile, as you must have heard about or not heard about, for people who not heard about it, agile software development, okay, was something, the idea, uh, which was brought about by a bunch of experts in software. Okay, these people, have seen various methods and processes and developed a lot of applications. But when they came together, and then they came together and then found there's a lot of gap in what is getting manufactured, what is getting developed, and what exactly finally, getting used. They found, the current manufacturing, the development cycle is not working. So what exactly they did is that they came together. In fact, literally, I think 1 dozen or 2 dozen people came together, and then they sat together, and then they brainstormed for a long period. Okay, and then they identify saying how this development has to change to optimized way, thereby reducing the inventory risk and waste. Okay. What did they do? When they saw, typically by the time in a typical waterfall, what happens is that, right? So you have somebody uh, uh, find out this is the problem that's existing. Somebody will say, okay, let's put that into a solution. And after they identify the solution, what they do is that they use to capture the requirements, and from the requirements, it gets into a use case, and then use case, then it gets into development, and development, then finally they test it, and then then they launch the software. So from the point of time of identifying the problem to the final output, it anywhere it will take 6 months to 1 year to 2 year also, So by the time when they came and then launched a product or a service, what happens is that people typically should start using the product, and then they should get benefited from what it is producing, right? But that was not the case. What happened is that people not been using the product because maybe the requirement has changed by the time in 1 year's time. What their expectation, what the problem they're facing is not has changed to something else. And then some cases actually where there is some other different type of solution that came about, because of which the product whatever was not relevant at all, and other people would have adopted to some other solution because of which they were not willing to switch to this solution. So many things has changed. So what happens is the entire time spent, resource spent, money spent gone waste, and even the end users would have suffered without that solution for a long period as well. So for which they came about saying how to create a development method which will reduce inventory, reduce risk, and reduce waste. So this is what they came about, right? So why exactly it is getting delayed, and what exactly the problem they started identifying in the current development method. Okay, so they came about saying, manifesto for agile software development. So individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So there were a lot of processes came about in between the regular waterfall method of development and various other tools which you focused on. Because of which, what happened is that actually you spend more time in capturing this thing and capturing and then following that, and by the end of it, actually took a long time. Instead, okay, bring in the individuals and interactions, they give more precedence over just the processes and tools. Because instead of just thinking about actually what exactly the code should be and then what is the process to follow, we have to understand what problem we are trying to solve actually. So the individuals came together and understood and then bounced the ideas and iterated, and they were able to get a better understanding between themselves. There was more priority, there was the more importance has to be given to this than just the processes and tools. So that is one of the key manifesto which they brought about. Second one is that working software over comprehensive documentation. So just documenting things actually, where most of the time we spend on that instead of focusing on the working software that solves the problem. So you have to spend more time in working software than on documentation. So that is the second manifesto. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Because to develop a software, there are multiple partners have to come together. It could be software vendors, it could be resources, it could be technology. Everybody has to come together. So if you say in 3 months we have to solve this, okay, and what happens actually? So what exactly the vendor does? He tries to complete however possible within that contract period, and try to finish something and then throw it and then leaving the project. So instead of forcing him and yourself, pushing yourself not towards a better product, but instead just the contracts, what happens is that the poor product is produced, and just to fulfill the contract, people would push themselves and get substandard products out. So instead, what should happen is a customer collaboration. So you should give the window to negotiate and then see, or collaborate and then see what exactly we are achieving, how we can partner together and bring a better project or product or services. instead of just worrying about whether we'll be penalized and stuff. So customer collaboration is more important than contract negotiation. Responding to change over following a plan. So we need to respond to change as well, right? So why a product is getting developed, a software is getting developed, it's for fulfilling certain purpose. So that purpose, what you're trying to do or solve a problem, if it has changed, or ecosystem has changed, or customer needs have changed, so you need to respond to the change what is happening. So instead say, oh, whatever happens, let it happen, we'll look into it once we launch it. If that is the case, if that is the agenda you're following, then the product that's going to come out is not going to be for any use at all, right? So responding to change over following a plan. So this is a key thing. It's one of the key manifestos. So these are the 4 key manifestos for agile software development. Of course, today agile has evolved into many things, including sprints and whatever stories and many more ways how the implementation takes place. But the key core thing why this agile was brought in is essential, which everybody has to put in their mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the key things of agile, which is again is part of the LeanUX, which we are running agile as part of the LeanUX.
Correct.
And then we have lean startup. Okay, so have you heard about Eric Ries? So if not, actually, no. So he has written a book on lean startup, and he works in startup ecosystem, and he's got a lot of innovation and how people should go about building the startup, and how you can succeed in a lot of theories and experience he has in building it. And he's a very good speaker, and as well as this book is something which is quite popular around the world, the lean startup.
Okay.
So we have covered the lean startup concepts as well in LeanUX. So the lean startup has a premise that every startup is a grand experiment. It says actually, every idea what you develop, okay, it's not going to be a success. It's an experiment, okay, that attempts to answer the question. The question is not can this product be built, okay. So what you're trying to prove from the experiment is that can this product be built. That's not what is the question trying to answer. The question you're trying to answer is that should this product be built, okay. So can we build a sustainable business around this set of products and services? So that is the key question, right?
Okay.
So that's what you get to answer in lean startup. So the question is that you should see whether should this product be built at all or not. Why should this be built? If it is going to be built, will it be sustainable business? Okay. So can it sustain? How do you do that? So like I said, we have to understand this is an experiment we are trying to do. So just don't go based on your assumptions. Just don't start building the entire product based on what you think it is. So you have to go and then see sustainable or not. How do you find it is sustainable? By doing multiple experiments. Only then you should build the product at all. So that's what the concept from the lean startup, which we have incorporated. So we have lean, agile, lean startup. So everything comes together and focuses on reducing the inventory, risk, and waste, right? So now we're talking about what is LeanUX. So the ideas of agile, lean startup, and together you combine them with what? The design thinking, the design principles, and user experience. Okay, these 3 together, design thinking, design principle, and user experience, put together with the ideas of agile, lean, and lean startup. That's what together we make it as LeanUX. Am I making sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
So in fact, the person, there are multiple lean UX, concepts are there. The one what I'm sharing here is actually based of this person. His name is Jeff Gothelf. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so he's again, worked in software field and user experience field for a long period, and he has brought this lean UX concept. In fact, to learn more about lean UX, you can check this book, Jeff Gothelf. In fact, even the lean UX canvas is brought about by him, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a very good concept, because I myself have worked on multiple startups, and I myself, started a couple of ideas, and yeah, of course, some of them failed, or yeah, rather it failed in between the idea. But the thing is, yeah, we tried to do a couple of pivots, but that idea what we worked is slightly ahead of the time, so because of which we couldn't take it forward. But yeah, sooner or later somebody else may in the future may come up with the same idea what I worked on. But I have applied this lean UX concepts, okay, and I was there in various other startup ecosystems as well. So where there are a lot of gaps in understanding itself what you're trying to develop, but this lean UX canvas comprehensively brought all this experimentations and the lean way of applying it, and where without a lot of costs, okay, and how you'll be able to test it, and then you'll be able to scale it up, right? So those are the concepts which are very essential and which I found it useful, and I experimented a couple of them, and it was quite useful, I found. And those concepts is what I'm sharing here as part of the lean UX and lean UX canvas. So what Jeff Gotham says is that, inspired by lean startup and agile development theories, it's the practice of bringing the true nature of product to light faster in a collaborative, cross-functional way. So collaborative cross-functional is very, very important. Okay. The thing is that what happens is that in a typical development environment, actually in product or services, what happens is that a lot of silos are there. So the business gives a requirement, and then the development a developer just uses the use cases to develop it, and the designer comes up with his own ideas, and what he understands from as a requirement from from the user's requirement as well as business requirement. But there needs to be a collaborative cross-functional way of development, so that what happens is there's a lot more clarity between what is getting developed, instead of just those the use cases, and then the half information what you gather is not sufficient. So less emphasis on deliverables and greater focus on shared understanding of the actual experience being designed. So that's very key, actually. When you have a shared understanding, the product that comes out, everybody knows actually what is the a product is supposed to do or deliver. So you would focus on the outcome. So that's a very essential thing in lean UX. So what is a deliberate strategy versus emergent strategy? Okay. So, this is a simple image, right? Somebody is standing at the edge of a mountain, and in fact, above all mountains, he is able to see, and you can see mist all around, and you don't know where the edge is, well, right? So it looks interesting. We wish we were standing in there in this kind of a spot. So what is deliberate strategy versus emergent strategy? What is the connection between this image and here is that what you have to understand is that, assume actually you are also coming up with an idea, okay, and now you're going to develop the idea, okay. If you are planned saying, okay, what I will do is that I will do these products, I will start developing and then launching one by one or together. It's like deliberate strategy. Assuming this guy, okay, what I will do is that I will take 10 steps, or I will walk another 50 meters ahead like this, and I will get a better view. I want to see how good it is. If that is what he is going to do, a deliberate strategy, it's going to be suicidal, right? Do you think so? You don't know where the edge ends, how many more meters he can walk, and where he's going to have a grip. Is there a land beyond this point or not? He doesn't know. But if that is what he has done, if he thinks that's how he's going to take it forward, go 10 steps or 100 steps, and see what happens, and then see how beautiful the location is or the view is, then what might happen is that it's just going to fall off. So instead, if you are doing it the right way, what would you do? You just take a couple of steps ahead and then see how it is around. Then if you think, okay, right side is not good to go, you have to take a left and then go. So you take left and then say, okay, 5 steps, you'll see, okay, there is enough paths, there's clarity is there, right? So likewise, while developing an idea, okay, developing a design, developing a code, you need to apply emergent strategy. So you just take a couple of steps and then see how it works. It's working fine, and then go further. And then some more steps you take, and then see, okay, this is working fine. Okay, this is the feedback I'm getting. Okay, I'm in the right direction. Go further. So that's how we should apply in a lean method, lean UX, of developing a product. So like why you shouldn't do deliberate strategy and why you should go with emergent strategy is obvious, right?
Right.
Yeah. So culture of delivery to culture of learning. Like I said, every a step is an experiment. Every product is an experiment. So instead of thinking of in this weekend I'm going to finish up these half a dozen features, and by next weekend I'm going to complete these another half a dozen features. Instead of making it as, okay, we have successfully delivered it, successfully we completed this code. Instead of thinking in just as a delivery, as a milestone, or as an output, instead we have to see whether what is the thing what we learned this week. So this is what the assumptions what we had. This is what we want to develop to solve the problem. So have we done that, and what exactly we learned? So learning is not actually the final code. Learning is that whether what you have developed is actually working or not. Okay, why it is not working, and what has changed, or what else you should do. So that's the culture of learning. So culture of learning is not individual we're talking about, it's about the team itself, understanding, saying, okay, this is what we tried as a understanding, and then the solution, but it just did work or didn't work, so what did we learn this week? So that is what is important in the lean UX. So this graphic illustrates, okay, the essence and the need for shared understanding. So in shared understanding, so in the first uh, illustration, what it shows is that, okay, when you discuss together, or a topic or the requirement comes, and each one has, from their experience and based on their background, they understand what is that requirement is, right? And when the requirement comes, people think, yeah, I think I agree, yeah, I understand what it is about. Each one thinks something else as the requirement, but they think, okay, we are all understood and we are on the same page, they may think,
Mm-hmm.
just an individual. But when they come together and express that idea and then discuss it over, only then they get a clarity that each one is thinking something else. It is not, each one has a different understanding of the same problem or the solution or the approach itself.
Mm-hmm.
So when they come together and they discuss it together, and finally they bring it together, they say, okay, this is what is that problem we are trying to solve, or this is what we want to approach. So understanding, the shared understanding is very essential. So by the end of it, everybody they are on the same page. Everybody has the same understanding what we are trying to develop. Everybody understand what is the success of this project actually. How can this project can be successful, and what is the end result that's expected, right? So shared understanding is very, very essential.